Alright, so here is the easiest and fastest way I have found to convert C-Log 3 footage into a beautiful color graded masterpiece in just a few simple clicks. So let's go into Premiere Pro and show you how this is done. So right now I have a bunch of clips laid out and they're all at different exposures, but all shot in C-Log 3 on the same camera, the Canon R6 Mark II. And this is a very common issue that sometimes when you're filming, maybe your exposure is not right or at least even between every single shot. So you do end up into this issue sometimes where some shots are properly exposed, maybe a little overexposed in this case, and then others are severely underexposed or maybe only moderately underexposed. In any case, the way I solve this issue is actually through this LUT pack I got from Todd Dominy. So Todd Dominy is a fantastic YouTuber and photographer from what I've seen, and he actually offers these correction LUTs which allow you to have the C-Log 3 curve, but either adjusted for over, underexposed, or even properly exposed videos. So you're going to definitely want to download this, and when you do, you're going to get a bunch of LUTs that go from -2 to +2 exposure in terms of stops. And when we go into my editor here, I have already imported them. I won't show you how to import them. That's sort of a whole new lesson. But nonetheless, once you have these LUTs, you can see them right here. I have Cinema Gamut +3 all the way to +2 stops. And then from negative, a third stop, I should say, to -2 stops. And then of course, the properly exposed, which he just refers to as native. So if we go into this first image, if we try just putting the native C-Log 3 LUT, which is what Canon provides, you can see that the image is ever so slightly underexposed, at least compared to how it was shot in real life and how it looks in real life. So the way I would go to this is, once again, instead of using the native, I'd go into my input LUT here. And I would probably say maybe plus a stop. Let's see how that looks. That is looking much better and more accurate to how it actually looks in real life. Now, if we go to this dog example, my beautiful Apollo here, this also is clearly underexposed in my opinion. You can kind of tell because the shadows are a lot darker than I'd like them to be. And when you go into native, it doesn't look bad. However, he is personally a little more underexposed than I would like him to be. So instead, I would actually change this from negative to maybe let's try 2/3. Stop. That looks, to my eyes, a lot better. Now, something to note when using any of the positive adding stops of light back into the C-Log 3 footage, you are going to get a lot more noise and grain in the shadows because it is lifting those shadows, and C-Log 3 tends to get pretty noisy pretty quickly in the shadows. And so this is typically why you'll see me in a lot of my footage tend to either overexpose by a stop or two and try to get as much light into the sensor as possible so that the shadows are as clean as possible. If we go into this next example, if we go onto native, you can see this is pretty darn close and I even maybe slightly overexposed. But if we play it through, it looks fantastic. Let's go to an example where I have overexposed the image. Here by a few stops, as you can see, this beautiful cat, Dottie Sunshine, is definitely a lot brighter than she was in real life. But the reason I do that is that I can bring it down using the LUT. So if I go to the native LUT, we'll see that she clearly looks overexposed. And although she's not clipping, it's not pure white on any of these parts, this is not an image I would actually be willing to share. Instead, I would go towards the negative stops now because we're going to be bringing down the exposure. And I already tested this out. If we go to -1, looks good. We actually could get away with this image. However, I overexposed this just the right amount, avoiding clipping. And so I would actually go to the most aggressive LUT correction, which is -2 stops. And when we do that, we see it is still very bright, but as you can see, the image is much cleaner when using negative stops of reduction because the shadows, since they are lifted, and we're just bringing them back down to the proper brightness level, they actually don't have quite as much noise. But now that's just for actually correcting the exposure. If we wanted to add a color grade, I recommend, personally, my favorite has been the LUTs from Gamut.io. And I bought their wedding LUT pack, which was called Adagio. And you can see them right here. I have Adagio 1 to 5. 5 is the black and white one. 1 is the standard. And then 2 is probably my favorite. But when you add one of these LUTs, as you can see, it's sort of a little more aggressive than I like. It's definitely adding a lot more red and magenta because this one is meant to make skin tones kind of pop out a little more. You can see it adjusting here when I turn it on and off. Off. You can see it's a little more red and muted, more natural. When I turn this on, it's definitely added a lot more magenta. So with these LUTs, all I do is I tend to go around 60% instead of 100% intensity. And it's just subtle enough that if you look at the image here, as I turn it off and on, it's just adding a nice gentle touch without being completely overpowering. But here's the thing, instead of doing this manually for every single clip, I like to have the color grade be even across all my clips. So instead, we're going to turn this off. And what you're going to want to do for the first time you do this is you're going to create a new item. You can either click here or right click on this space where the project is. And I'm going to go to new item and adjustment layer. Make sure it matches your sequence, which it will. And you're going to drag that over on top all of your footage. And now, instead of applying that creative look to each individual clip, we're going to select our adjustment layer. And once again, in the lumetri color, we're going to go to one of our favorite color grading presets, the LUTs, and apply it. And you'll see it actually applies it to every single clip under it. And this is the way I'm able to quickly achieve a color grade over all my footage without having to manually go into each individual clip. And once again, all you have to do now is switch this to 60%. And voila, you have a nice subtle color grade on top of your C-Log3 footage that you've properly corrected using these exposure LUTs. And if you stayed all the way until the end, I do want to share a bonus tip because you could make this even faster. So if you look over here on the left side, I have something called Smart Adjustment Layers. If we open this, you'll see I already have these pre-made. So instead of doing this adjustment layer, I can just drag Adagio 2 here, and I'll just slide it all over. And voila, I've achieved the same thing without having to manually adjust each and every single clip. So how do you make this? Once again, we will go back to our adjustment layer that we had earlier. We are going to select it and make sure we add the LUT once again. In this case, I'll make it Adagio 1. I'm going to put this back at 60% as I like it. And now in the effects control panel on the top left here, what you're going to want to do is select lumetri color, and I'm going to hit Command X to cut it. And instead of selecting this drop-down menu here, make sure you're selecting source, and you're going to hit Command V to paste that effect back in there. And effectively what this lets us do is that no matter where this clip is, even if I were to delete it from the timeline, it will still have the Adagio effect no matter what, because it is tied to its source clip, not to just where it is on the timeline. And then you can just simply rename this. This would be Adagio 1. And then you would save this file into some sort of folder in this case. And now you can apply this to whatever you like. So let me show you, once you've done this for both correction LUTs, which you can do just like I have done here, C-Log1, -1 stop, 2 stops, and then just normal, no stop adjustments. You can simply drag one of these over, cover the footage, and it should have easy exposure. And then you can drag one of your creative LUTs over it. And voila, now you have correction LUTs and a color grade over your footage, super quick, super easy, by just simply drag and dropping 2 adjustment layers as needed. And as you see here, this one is properly exposed, and then this one was overexposed. So I would just simply adjust this layer, add the -2 stops, stretch it over the clip, and now you can see it is a properly exposed image with a wonderful color grade on top, and it takes me less than 2 minutes. So that's all I have for you guys today. I just wanted to share this super easy, quick tip. Definitely check out Todd Domini's LUT pack, it has made my workflow so much easier, as you can see, especially when you combine that by creating these preset adjustment layers in your project. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. If you want more tips and tutorials around filmmaking, just like this one, be sure to like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.